We have seen strange things today. I live in a house with lots of young people. I spend most of my evenings when I go to my hermitage thinking to myself, I've seen strange things today. Everything from people obsessed by Christmas, or people obsessed by healthy eating, or people chasing each other around the place, or random, just there's one particular person who just loves getting piggybacks from people, but without telling the person she's getting a piggyback from that she's about to require a piggyback, so she just basically jumps on people from behind. All this kind of thing. You know, I've seen strange things. I see strange things every day. But what I love about community life is community life, when one lives in community, you see all sorts of different kinds of people, all sorts of different gifts, talents, abilities, inabilities, strengths and weaknesses, all thrown into like a Christmas cake type mix of gooiness. And it's so interesting, like just the many, like, you know, first thing in the morning, you've got the morning people, my goodness, morning people, who come down all excited and joyful and full of life and energy and volume. And then there are others who just kind of come down, hair disheveled, to go over and just kind of hug the radiator until it's time to pray grace or whatever, you know. You've got those who love singing, those who prefer not to, those who love to, you know, be seen or heard, those who want to be in the background, and so on. So community life teaches us all sorts about all sorts of people, you know, and teaches us about ourselves too, because where do I find myself in this mix? So it's a great teacher. But what we do learn also in community is that sanctity isn't reserved to any one type of person. It's not like it's all about, you know, those who are extrovert, or those who are introvert, or those who are Latin Mass, or those who are charismatic, or those who are whatever it is. Their sanctity isn't reserved to any one grouping. All of us are called to sanctity, and all of us can become saints. So when you look at like Saint Nicholas today, as with most saints from the 4th century, not a whole lot is known about him, but what we do know about him is wonderful. Okay, so he's a bishop of Myra, which is modern day Turkey. And apparently his parents died in a pandemic when he was very young, so he was left all of their wealth, so he was a wealthy orphan, brought up then by his uncle. And by all accounts, he seems enthusiastic about his faith, very, very driven, very motivated, zealous and passionate. Okay, but also very generous. So he had this wonderful mix of being like at times a grizzly bear and at times a teddy bear. You know, he seemed to have this wonderful way of defending the faith, because there was what was called the Arian heresy, which taught that there was a time when Jesus was not. So basically that Jesus, the second person of the Trinity, was created, if you will, by God, the Father. So then Jesus' divinity and the Father's divinity aren't the same. So big problem. All clarified in the Council of Nicaea in 325, but at which apparently St. Nicholas was present, and apparently at which, when he saw Arius giving his discourse and fighting for the fact that Jesus wasn't divine as the Father was divine, that St. Nicholas went over and slapped him. Now, that we're not 100% sure if that actually happened, but so goes the legend anyway, that St. Nicholas slapped him. Okay, but obviously at this time, 4th century, there were a lot of issues of poverty, and in port towns, trading towns, prostitution was an issue. But St. Nicholas, as a priest, came to hear of a man, a father, who had come into debt, and the only way he could find to pay his debt was actually to sell his daughters into prostitution. With great reluctance he was doing this, but there was no other way. And so St. Nicholas then, as a priest, one night came along by their house, saw the windows open, got a little bag of money to pay for the first daughter, if you will, the oldest daughter, and lobs it in the window, which is discovered then later on, and then subsequently for the second daughter, then also for the third daughter, so that they wouldn't have to go into prostitution. That's why St. Nicholas is often shown, if you see statues of him, with 3 what look like red balls. Maybe I don't know if that's where the idea of baubles on a Christmas tree come from. Not really sure, but they were supposed to be bags of money, so that's what it's supposed to look like. But okay, it's not always sure what they are. That's it. So those 3 bags of money. So a sign of his generosity and his love for children, his love for the family. What's interesting though about him is that, if you keep in mind, this is the 4th century. This is a long time ago, before all of the infrastructure for the church and all of the systems and all of all that we know of the church now is only in its infancy, really. There are obviously great saints, people of great faith, but we're still discovering and writing. Like, this is at the time when we were still writing the creed, right? So this is how long ago we're talking. So things were rough, and obviously, early part of the history of the church up until the early 4th century, Christianity was illegal until Constantine, in the Edict of Milan, allowed it, or declared it to be the faith of the Roman Empire. So up until then, the faith was often violently persecuted. And so in one of these persecutions, St. Nicholas was taken prisoner. So again, just when you compare all of this to Coca-Cola Santa Claus, like there's almost nothing in common at all, right? So you have St. Nicholas, right, in chains in a dungeon. And were it not for the Edict of Milan, I think it was 313, if I remember correctly, he would have been murdered, killed, martyred. Okay, this is the St. Nicholas that the church reveres today. A bishop, a lover of souls, a lover of the Lord, a generous, selfless, courageous, zealous priest and bishop who fought for his people and fought for the truth, ultimately fighting for the Lord. That's who the church venerates. Okay, so I think it's just, we as Christians, we as Catholics, we have to be very, very clear about this, you know, that, if you will, the caricature of Santa Claus is not St. Nicholas. The St. Nicholas is a bishop, a man of prayer, a man of selfless generosity. Okay, so he escapes martyrdom because Constantine makes the faith, the Christian faith, the faith of the Roman Empire, and so the prisoners are freed. Okay, so again, it's said that he died then in Myra, in Turkey. Okay, later on in history, the Saracens invaded, took over all that part of Turkey into Greece, and at that point then the Italians saw that this would be a good opportunity, or a requirement actually, to get St. Nicholas's relics out of Myra, otherwise no one would be able to go on pilgrimage there, and the church may even be desecrated or burnt down, or who knows what would happen to the relics. So between Venice and Bari, both of them wanted the relics. In the end, the Baresi went over, got them, brought them back. And so to this day, the relics of St. Nicholas are in Bari, in Italy. And interestingly, I met the Archbishop of Bari there just a couple of weeks ago, and we were just talking about this fact, you know. And he's very, 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 very proud to have the relics of San Nicolai, and he's like the I don't think he was exaggerating. He said he's the most famous saint in the world, which is probably true. Maybe I'd say there's more of a veneration to St. Nicholas even than St. Joseph. I mean, it's possible. It's possible. I'm not saying he's a greater saint. I'm just saying he's more well known. It's quite possible. It's quite possible. So that's pretty amazing, like, when you think about it. Again, I hope what is known is the saint and not the caricature, because otherwise there's no point what's the point in knowing a caricature, like some overfed, Coca-Cola dressed chubby dude who flies around in a sled? I don't know. Okay. Whatever. Sorry, I didn't sleep well. Okay. So, but to get back to the saint, like this lover of Christ, this man who loves Jesus, and because of that, I mean, that's what we should get back to. That Saint Nicholas, the saint that we venerate today, you know, is a follower of Christ, a man willing to actually die for him, and a man who almost did. Okay, so when his relics were brought back to Bari, they were placed in a great reliquary there, and the relics started to exude a kind of myrrh, a kind of an oil, if you will, which then became known as the manna of St. Nicholas, which then was discovered to have healing properties, and which is then collected into little vials anyway, and distributed around the world, and many miracles are attributed to it as well. So it's wonderful to see how, even from heaven, even post-mortem, even after their lives here on earth. The saints continue to do work. All this through the Lord. You see how like the saints and love for Christ, love for God are so intimately united. And that's what makes the saints great. That's what makes, in all humility I think we can say this, that's what will make us great one day. It's our unity with the Lord. It's our unity with the Lord. Same with Our Lady. Our Lady's greatness is her littleness, her being empty of herself and filled with the Holy Spirit, filled with God, full of grace. That's what makes the saints great, their unity with God. And so for us, different and all as we are, eccentric and all as some of us are, our greatness is our unity with the Lord. And if we're united with the Lord and live according to that, then each and every one of us can become saints. So we ask the good Lord today to renew our hearts and minds with this conviction that sanctity isn't reserved for the few, or it's not reserved for a certain kind of person, but it's something I too can become if I collaborate with the Lord's grace. May each one of us become the saints that the Lord is calling us to be. And may each one of us discover the powerful intercession today of Saint Nicholas. Amen.